What's up guys, Whitaker here from Grind City Media, and I don't know what the weather's like where you live, but here in Memphis things are turning cold and nothing's better than a nice warm bowl of almost homemade chicken noodle soup. Let's make some chicken noodle soup. I've got a recipe, it's super easy. You're gonna love it, I love it. Let's do it together. This is Cooking with Lang. Today we are making chicken noodle soup. Let's start our soup with some vegetables. You can put all sorts of veggies in this. This is one whole sweet onion, Vidalia, whatever kind you can buy. A couple of garlic cloves, some carrots. I have a child around the house, so we always have these little handheld carrots, baby carrots, whatever they're called. I'm gonna cut them into smaller pieces. I don't wanna cut them too small because I want them to still have some bite in the soup and not completely fall apart. Those are good. And then some celery. You don't have to throw away the leaves. They taste great. I'm just gonna kind of give this a quick run through with the knife. And we're good to go. So, got a big pot over here, medium-high heat. And we're gonna put in some extra virgin olive oil. I'd say about 2 tablespoons, maybe 3, enough to kind of coat the bottom of the pan. And then we're gonna go in with all these vegetables. And they're gonna start to cook. And we don't want them to turn dark colors or anything like that. We just want them to kind of get translucent, sweat a little bit. And we basically just have like half the produce section of the grocery store in this pot right now. This is gonna cook for like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that. Stir it occasionally. And while this gets going, we'll start on the next section of the soup. Let's talk about the chicken and the chicken noodle soup. It's a weeknight. I don't want to spend an hour roasting the chicken before I even make the soup or whatever you're gonna do. So I go to the grocery store. You can buy rotisserie chicken for $6, $7. I'm gonna shred it by hand. I don't really want the skin. It tastes good, but it's not gonna do anything in the soup because it's already kind of mushy. So I pull the skin off, I pull out 2 breasts. I'm just gonna shred it by hand. This is gonna be the chicken in my soup. Whatever's left over, sandwiches, you need it for leftovers, you need it for lunch. But this chicken breast alone should be enough to fill up our soup. Okay, the vegetables are done, they're ready to go. So now I wanna thicken the soup just a little bit. I don't want it to be like a chowder or a stew. To just have a little bit of body to it. So I'm gonna use a spoonful of all-purpose flour, that's 1 tablespoon. I'm gonna throw it in there with the vegetables and then stir it around because you want the flour to cook a little bit. If it has kind of a raw taste, it's gonna soak up the oil and make a little bit of a roux. We're gonna let it cook for like about 30 seconds before we add our liquid. All right, time to add our broth. I got low sodium chicken broth. It tastes great. I know people freak out because it's not gonna have the flavor of chicken broth. It's not gonna be as good. No, it's good, it's great. And this way you can control the salt. You can add more if you want to. So I'm gonna add in a little bit at a time and kind of incorporate the roux. You see how thick it is right there, but we're gonna put in about 8 cups of broth and get this worked in there and bring it up to a boil. If you're gonna make chicken noodle soup, you need noodles. And this is when I usually go in the pantry and find a box that's half full, something that I might have already used some of. This is some angel hair pasta. You can see the soup's coming to a boil again, a little thicker than it was before. I'm gonna do something you're never supposed to do in Italy, and I'm gonna tear this pasta in half. Only because I don't wanna eat soup and have these giant pieces of pasta floating around in it. So this is it. This pasta is so thin it's gonna cook in maybe 2 minutes. I'm just gonna keep it stirring a little bit, keep it agitated so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. But once this pasta's cooked, we're pretty much ready to go. All right, pasta's cooked for 5 minutes, it's good to go. Now the star of the show, the chicken, goes in. It's cooked already, we just really need to kind of warm it through. And you can see how it's gotten thicker. The pasta is gonna soak up a lot of that broth that was in there. This is good. Now I'm gonna put some finishing touches into this and we're gonna be good to go. A couple things to finish this soup off and kind of brighten up the flavors a little bit. Some fresh cracked black pepper to start. This is some dill and some thyme that I had in the fridge. Gonna throw that in, give it a little brightness. And then just to give it a little acidity, I'm gonna put the zest of half of a lemon. And I do this upside down and kind of catch it all in this zester. And then tap it in there. I don't want it to be a lemon soup, but I just want it to have a little bit of acidity and a little brightness at the end. And then we stir it in, and how good does that look? All right, you saw this start to finish. Not a lot of work, but got a giant pot of amazing chicken noodle soup that's gonna feed my family for a week. It's gonna feed me tonight for dinner. Let's eat. You get a sweetness from the carrots, which I love. The saltiness of the broth, the vegetables, the noodles have a nice texture to them, a nice bite. And then the brightness of the herbs and the lemon at the end. You just get a little tiny hint of the lemon, but man, that is amazing. And we made that start to finish in what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? I made chicken noodle soup from scratch tonight. Well, sort of from scratch, but I made it start to finish fast. You can do it too. Let's cook it with Lang.